Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us virtually. My name is Natasha Nazarali and I am the Program Manager of the ISEG MBA. And today I bring to you our partner, Startup Lisboa. So who is Startup Lisboa? Startup Lisboa is an incubator of startups from tech, tourism and commerce focused on supporting the development and growth of startups and also helping them to attract customers, investors, and to scale up and become global. Who better to partner up with in the entrepreneurship and innovation stream than them? So to explain this a little bit better, we will have here today with us Miguel Fontes, the CEO, and also André Costa, the head of strategy, that will focus in the actual module that we have in the MBA with them. If you have any questions, I ask you to write them in the Q&A section, okay? And we will address them at the end of this session. I hope you enjoy it, and I give the floor to Miguel Fontes. Miguel, you are on mute.
The traditional sentence when we start. Okay, so thank you, Natasha. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here today. And I'm here just to explain a little bit more about what is Startup Lisboa. I assume that some of you probably you don't know us, and explain what we do and why we are cooperating with ISEG, namely in this MBA, since the last edition of, or the present edition of this MBA. So Startup Lisboa, we are an incubator. Startup Lisboa was born namely 9 years ago in downtown of Lisbon. And I always like to emphasize this idea that we were born because of the will of the citizens of Lisbon. And why? Because we have one tool that probably you should know called a participatory budget. And in that time, one of the projects that was elected and voted by the citizens of Lisbon was precisely this one, the idea to create an incubator in Lisbon. And in that time, so the municipality of Lisbon decides to respect, of course, the will of the citizens and invite other players to join the city hall to create what we are, a non-profit association with this clear mission that is to support entrepreneurs and in a particular field. Of course, when we talk about entrepreneurship, we have a lot of dimensions, but we are focused on what we call the startup world, if you want. So that means that we were born to help founders to grow their ideas, their projects, and to help them to do it. So how do we do this? Let me explain in a very brief way. And what we do is to work with in a very close way to them in 5 ways. First of all, we try to promote and give them access to a very good network of mentors. We know that mentoring, it's always an important part of what we can call an incubation program, because we can expose them to people that come from different skills with different backgrounds, and they can do a lot for them in a certain moment of their project. So we try to select and invite people from the academical world, of course, but namely for previous startups, entrepreneurs, or people coming from the venture capital or from the corporate world. What we want is to have a very good people, a very group of people, very diverse, with different kind of skills that are available to help our community of founders. Secondly, we do a little bit the same with what we call strategic partners. We have a few partners working with Startup Lisboa. Of course, all the tech partners that we can imagine. I mean, Google, Microsoft, Amazon Web Service, Cisco, and so on and so on, but also law firms that and other kind of service that we know that they need in their journey. So what we try to do is to establish a very good relation with this what we call these strategic partners, because we know that they can offer a good service to them and in the best conditions that they can find in the market. Third, I would say not only mentors, not only partners, but also, of course, communication. It's very important when you are talking about startups to help them to be known in the community, and we try to use our own brand, Startup Lisboa, to help them to become known in the market, in the society. So we work a lot what we can call the awareness of the projects. And this is also part of our normal job. Of course, for that we have what we are doing in social media. We try at least to have a strong presence in all the digital world, the LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on and so on. And we create also good content from them. We have at least two newsletters every single week for them. One is just for the founders, where we try to have the best content that they can access related with this entrepreneurial world. And the second newsletter that is for everyone that is interested to follow us, where we share not only our work as Startup Lisboa, but namely the work that they are doing, and we try to promote a lot what they are doing here in Portugal. And finally, I think it's very important also to explain that one of the things that we do is to put them in contact with investors. We know when we are talking about startups that we need to establish the best relations that they can have to access capital. And normally we speak about smart money, so that means that we need to have the best relations in the market, not only with the business angels, of course, but namely what we normally call the VC world. So venture capitalists that are available to invest in their projects and to follow them in the journey that they are just starting now. And finally, also an important part of our job is to create what we call a community. We really believe that if you create the right environment where they feel comfortable to share their experience, their projects, not only their achievements, but also their difficulties, their challenge, maybe we are doing the best way, the right move to help them to go to market. And why? Because we know that even knowing that they are working in different kind of ideas, in different kind of projects, in different markets, at the end of the day, the kind of difficulties, the kind of needs that they have, they are similar. So if we create the right environment where they feel confident to trust to each other and to share what they are doing, for sure we are doing our best to help them to succeed in this entrepreneurial world. So for today, I just want to give you this general idea. Believe me, it's a little bit strange when you are speaking for, I don't know who is listening us, but I assume that you are there. So today I just want to give you this big picture about Startup Lisboa, but namely we are here today to explain a little bit more what we are doing with this partnership with ISEG in this MBA. So for that we have today also, I have also today with me André Costa. André Costa is our head of strategy at Startup Lisboa, and is the person in charge for everything related with our mentorship program, also the relation with our partners and with the investors. So I invite now André to join me and to explain a little bit more in detail what we have done in this initiative with ISEG, and what we are thinking to do in the second edition of the next MBA. Thank you all for your attention, and Andrea, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel, and good afternoon, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here. So we received this very kind invitation from ISEG to join the MBA and to create a very different program for the students, and we have tried to do that. We ran the first edition that was over by the end of January. So we are talking about a module that has 20 hours. And in this first edition, the model was divided in 5 days. So it was very concentrated, it was very intense. We also learned a lot from that process, and we took our lessons very seriously as entrepreneurs as well. And probably in the next edition, we will just shape a little bit the program, because we understand from feedback we got from students and even the guests that we had in the session, that it would be interesting to space things a little bit up, and I'll get to that. But our goal here was basically trying to create a very immersive experience, helping the students to go through any entrepreneurial process in a very intense way. Basically, we structured the program around different methodologies, using different ways of teaching the subjects that we wanted to share with the students. So we went from lectures in which we were sharing materials, basic concepts, definitions, methodologies. We also had a lot of keynote speakers that we invited to join us in our sessions. We also promoted a lot of roundtables, and in total we have had more than 20 people helping us, Miguel and myself, during this MBA, to make sure that the students would have the best learning experiences possible. So during that process, so from those 20 names that I just mentioned, we had entrepreneurs, we had a lot of entrepreneurs, founders with different levels of maturity. We also had a lot of our partners joining us to cover some specific topics. And we think that this was quite rich for the students. We think that was quite impactful, because in a very short amount of time, they were exposed to what is considered the best people in the ecosystem, or some of the best people in the ecosystem. And by the end of the day, that's something quite important, because as an MBA student, you are always looking to expand your networking opportunities, and that was also something that we had in our minds. So the way we structured these was basically in different areas. So we started covering in the beginning the basic definitions of entrepreneurship, so trying to demystify the differences between a small and medium enterprise to actually what is a startup. We also cover a lot the importance of being integrated in ecosystems, and what role Portugal has been playing as a startup ecosystem over the last years. We also covered a lot the basic definitions of entrepreneurship. So it's an area where we have a lot of jargon. Actually, a lot of our subjects and a lot of our materials, they have their own terminology. So we wanted to make sure that the students were aware of that, and they would understand the following classes. We cover basic methodologies that are important when someone is trying to launch a business, from lean startup to business model canvas. Those classes were extremely important to give highlight insights for the students, so they can understand how they can start structuring their business ideas. We also help them to have a better idea how they can go from precisely ideas to real startups. And for doing so, well, we brought some of entrepreneurs that have passed by Startup Lisboa, so they can share their own experiences, telling to the class so how they started their companies, when was the moment that they discovered that they wanted to launch a company, how do they assess the opportunity, so how they went from a simple idea that they had in their minds to a concrete startup, which is what they have today. And this was a very rich discussion, and we think that just by providing them multiple ways of getting into the same result, that was also helping someone that maybe in the future try to launch their own ideas, either because it's a startup thing that they wanted to do, or because it's ideas that they are trying to promote internally in their own company, and that could be also applicable as well. Another topic that we covered was precisely to how we can start assessing a marketing opportunity. So ideas are just ideas until we execute them. But it's important to understand the ideas that we are launching, how big and how impactful they could be in the future. So we help the students to understand basically how they can access their own markets, what are the exercises that they can do, and what are the methodologies that they can follow, so they can easily assess and validate if what they are trying to build is interesting enough, and if it's something that it makes sense on the specific market or not. After this class, we cover another very important topic, which is related with product market fit. So trying to understand how the how the fitness between the market and the product would actually exist, and basically explain what is this process of interacting with the market and getting feedback and making required adjustments on the product, so that product eventually would serve better the needs of the customer. So that was also a topic that we cover a lot, and it was a very important topic because the process of actually launching a startup was going to require a lot of interactions with a different number of stakeholders, from clients to partners to other entities, political stakeholders, economic stakeholders, and that's something very important, and we try to cover the best we could. Also, another topic that we try to cover, and we spend a lot of detail, was precisely to stress out the biggest differences between investment and startup investment or venture capital. So when we launch a company and that company is not a startup, usually the means that we have at our disposal are a little bit different from the ones that we have when we are trying to launch a startup. And here it's when it gets very techy and very specific in terms of the words that and the terms and the jargon that is in place, and all the methodologies, and also at the same time all the possibilities that an entrepreneur has in front of him or her to launch his own or her own company. So we spend a lot sorry, I think I was off for a while. So we spend a lot of time trying to stress these ideas of venture capital and trying to establish the main differences between traditional funding. And finally, we also address the go-to-market strategy, so how startups can grow. On that, we also brought entrepreneurs so they can share experiences. For instance, we have had people that lead Zomato's expansion in Europe, sharing their own thoughts with us and first-person experiences. We also had the founder of Indie Campers, Hugo, explaining to us and share his own thoughts, how he has been growing the company so much over the last years. And the last topics that we cover were related with how to build teams and how to build a startup culture, and also how to measure success and failure on this world of startups. The assignment that we gave to the students was precisely in a very short time of a short period of time, they could go from a simple idea to a pitch that they would be trying to sell to us their own product, their own startup, their own idea. And for that, we request the help also of actually VCs to be with us on the evaluation moment. And asking typical VC questions to the audience and to the students. So in a very short period of time, we believe that what we deliver was very intense. It was very immersive, and by the end of that process, we believe that we were able to also expose the students a lot to different ideas, thoughts, networking opportunities, and actually to give them the tools so they can eventually launch their own businesses or find their own entrepreneurial way. But more than having me here speaking about this, we also invited two students from the class, so they could share with us a little bit their experience, and I will promise that we will make this very quick because they have an exam in a few minutes. But I wanted to make sure that Anna and João, they could share with us a little bit their experience in our module. So I would probably ask João and Anna so they can unmute themselves and the cameras too. And I will start with Anna. So always starting with the ladies. So Anna, so from this experience that you have had in our class, so what was the most impactful thing that you have experienced, even though this was during this pandemic and we started physically and then we moved remote? But can you tell us a little bit more? What have you learned, and what were the sessions, and what did you like the most in the sessions that we delivered during this class?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for inviting me today, and also thanking for the great week. I think what stuck to my mind is that before having this this week with you guys, I didn't even think about like launching my own startup, and then I was like positively surprised how much the whole topic was catching me. And I think you did a very great job by inviting all these guest speakers, because I could like the path you created, like the red line, was very clear and super interesting. But I think especially now that everything is online, and we have the classes after our work, it's sometimes difficult to like stay focused and keep your attention on the topic until 11 p.m. And so I think by inviting all these great key speakers or like guest speakers, it was very good to get to know the variety of the perspectives and the input they gave to us. So I think the choice of the panel speakers was a very good job.
Okay, and thank you, Anna, so much. And what about you, João? So what were your favorite topics? So from all the classes that we have had, if you have to pick like one of them that was your favorite one, which one would be, and tell us why, please.
Okay, thank you for having me also. I think also I'm with Anna a little bit here. I mean, for me, the major upside was the fact that we had the chance to I think I don't have video. Okay, was that we had the chance to listen to a handful of entrepreneurs, founders, and successful businessmen and women. I mean, I guess no matter what is your background and how much you know about managing a business, like if you embrace this challenge of starting a startup, I believe it's a completely different thing, and most of us will potentially feel overwhelmed and lost. So in my opinion, like my background is in engineering. I'm a civil engineer. I've learned a lot about management, economics, entrepreneurship and all. And when I think about starting my own idea and try to turn it into a sustainable business, I had no idea where to start. And in this sense was very interesting to listen to the stories of people who succeeded in this and understand what were their major obstacles, like the do's and don'ts of launching a startup. And it was very interesting. About the other classes I enjoyed, I really liked the one about the entrepreneurial mindset and prototyping, which was taught by Manuel Adelin, I think, and another one about going from an idea to a startup, which was taught by Miguel and Andre. And in those modules, we were taught like the importance of prototyping, of disciplined experimentation, how we can develop a minimum viable product and take it to the market. And I found that very interesting. Yeah, in a summary way, I think this is it.
Okay, thank you so much, João. Maybe just like a final question for both of you, and this one is very quick because I know that you guys have to run. Like from your experiences, like if you have to recommend this to people, or let me put this in a different way. So you guys work in a project that was your final assignment. So after this session, do you believe, or this module, do you believe that you have the right ingredients to start that company that you have been working? João, you can start. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So as Andrea explained, we had the final pitch, and actually me and Anna were in the same team. Yeah, I think our idea was actually very interesting. I mean, again, if I had to grab this and try to turn it into a business, I would feel kind of lost, because I mean, we don't have, I mean, we learned a lot about how we could develop a business model canvas and everything, and but in this stage we just have the idea. We don't really have an actual product, and I guess that part would be very challenging. But
you had a nice prototype for the pitch, because I remember that.
Yeah. we made a prototype just for fun. But yeah, it got me excited, like the whole module. I mean, I believe it's possible that we can turn it into something if we can find the right people to help us start it, like develop a real product. Yeah, that's it.
What about you, Anna? So is João the co-founder that you want to start the company with you?
Well, about that question, I mean, I very enjoyed. I had a lot of group works with him so far, and everything turned out to be very good. But what I also understood from the class is that choosing your partners is very, very essential. And since we just started the MBA, let's see how the next semester turn out. No, just kidding. I'm totally with my colleague here. It got me very excited. And I think if we got the right mentoring and network, because it's not something that we had in our drawer, like the idea, and some of us already wanted to do it. It was really something that came up that weekend. So I think we are like still some steps away from really launching something.
Yeah.
But if we got like support and we're a little bit further in our MBA, I think it would be very cool. Yes.
Okay. That was great. Thank you guys so much, and best. Well, I will let you guys go for the exam, and best of luck for that. Now it's going to be just Miguel, Natasha, and I. Thank you again for coming here and take some minutes of your precious time to be here with us and to share your experience. So the way we are going to finish this module and our participation here, it's basically. So we are going to have an immersive experience later in September, in which basically we are going to bring the class with us, hopefully in person, to visit the ecosystem. And by ecosystem, we mean startups, scale-ups, investors, partners from the ecosystem, corporates. So making sure that they have a very deep experience and they can experience Lisbon at its best. And from my side, that's all. And I think for now, we are available for questions, both Miguel and myself. So if you guys have questions to us, feel free to shoot them, and we will divide the answers between ourselves.
We don't have at the moment any questions, but I ask written in here. But I ask if someone has them to write them down or raise your hand. What I have here from a few contacts previously, you spoke a little bit about the immersive experience that they're going to also have in the MBA. But if you can speak a little bit more about that and how will it complement this module that you explained very, very well? Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yes, Miguel, do you want to take this one, or should I take it?
No, please go, Andre. Go.
Okay, so no, so the idea was the way we did this was so we started with let's say with the theory and with this idea of energizing the students so they can eventually start thinking about starting their own ideas. We know that an MBA is a long process. We know that they will be doing a lot of assignments during the MBA, but our expectation is that at least they would be in doubt about starting something. And I think, like from what we got from Man and from João, eventually the project that they introduced to us with some tweaks and validations from the market, it could be eventually a business idea that they wanted to launch. About the second part of this experience, our idea here was also trying to provide them access to the companies and to the people that is part of the ecosystem. So one thing was having these people in class with us, and we were not able to have everyone because of this pandemic. So actually during the first week, we were able to be in a classroom, but part of the class was online and the other one was physical. But in the second week of the module, we were obliged to go all home, and we didn't have the opportunity to experience a physical experience with the entrepreneurs. The idea of this immersive experience is precisely to reinforce that that component and that way that what we wanted to do is basically show to the class what's the real thing, so they can really meet investors, see how do they work, how do their process work, where do they work, so how do they receive companies and how do they filter companies. Same thing with startups and scale-ups. Obviously it's kind of mandatory coming to Startup Lisboa and to see what we are doing there and meet the local community, but also showing the students a little bit more about the Hub Criativo do Beato, which is a major initiative that we are developing, and eventually provide to the students a very enrichful experience in which they can just like see what's going to be probably the most impactful project on entrepreneurship in Portugal. But also making sure that they get connected with other companies, partners, corporates, and eventually they see how this idea of entrepreneurship could be something that, and this mindset can be something used not only to launch their own companies, but at the same time that they can bring inside to their own teams and to their own corporates. So eventually to create this idea of innovation. So I think that kind of covers the answer. I don't know, Miguel, if you want to add something here.
I think it's very clear. You just explained everything. So the idea is to expose everyone to what we call the ecosystem. So it's something that it's a word that you use a lot. The ecosystem. And what is the ecosystem? The ecosystem is a little bit a puzzle where you can find all the pieces, and all together they are part of what we call this ecosystem. And it's important to know that, and to know that when you are talking about entrepreneurship, we must recognize that we are talking about learning institutions, academic institutions, research centers for sure, but also other ventures, corporate world, investors, and so on and so on and so on. So, and it's because we have all these pieces together that we have really what we call an ecosystem. And the idea is to show them what we have in the city, and because sometimes they don't know that, for instance, Farfetch, the first Portuguese unicorn, has office here in the center of Lisbon, and part of the team is working from Lisbon to the world. Or other companies that are working here for developing all the digital strategy. For instance, in Daimler Group, Mercedes IO, it's a company that is an international one. The CEO is a Portuguese guy, an amazing guy, and Portugal was selected, and Lisbon namely, to be the base of this important project for a Daimler Group. And I can continue putting more and more examples. The idea is to make some light to some part of the reality that sometimes people, they don't know it so well. But Natasha, if I can also answer to the first question that we have already in our chat, I would love to answer to Judith, and thank you for the question. For sure, I would say the most important thing to be a good mentor, and this is the question, is for sure to listen. It's important a mentor that that knows that the part of the job is to have empathy with the founders, and not to try to sell any strategy, any idea, any preconceived concept, but to listen what they are doing, where are the difficulties, what they are looking for in terms of help, and to work from there to the answer, and not to independently of the questions, of the reality, to start saying, oh, you should do this and this and this. No, 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 no. A good mentor is someone that is there to identify the problems, but the problems that are mentioned by the founders themselves. So that's, for me, for sure, the first thing. The secondly, of course, it's important to have hard skills, not only the soft skills if you want, but if it's a technical issue, there must be someone that is able to answer to that question. Or if it's a question regarding the market of the business model, the same. So it's a little bit the great way how to combine these two dimensions. But in this particular world, the best mentors normally, it's not always like that, but normally are the other founders. That means people that have already done that, have done this, and have done that journey to be an entrepreneur, and they are now in position to share about a real experience, and not only about something that you read about it, or something that you just know because someone told you. No, no, it's because you have been there. We have done already that process, and so you are in the best position that you can be, precisely to understand the pains and the process that a founder is passing through. So that's what I would say.
I will just add on the top of the question, and thanks for the question, that one of the main or the most important thing that that a mentor can offer to the startup is actually very good questions. Most of the times when we have a mentoring session, like a specific mentor is meeting a startup for the first time in an industry that he doesn't know that much, or she doesn't know that much, doesn't know also a lot about the company, what were the problems, what were the things that the company has been gone through the last periods or years or months or whatsoever. But by just making very sharp and open questions, that's going to create space for the founder to start thinking about things that sometimes they are just like right in front of you, but because you have to be so much focused on your daily operations, you totally forgot about them, and you don't see them clearly. So just by asking very good questions, that's typically a very good quality that a mentor has, and that's kind of linked to what Miguel has said, which is the ability to listen and to clearly identify what are the questions that need to be asked. So I would just add that as a good quality that a mentor has to have.
Thank you both. We don't have any questions, and any more questions, and I think we've covered everything, or almost everything. What I can say now is that just after what you said, that people just need to surround themselves with a good network, basically, right? Experienced people from the hard skills area and the soft skills area, but not only that, and people that have been in those shoes, so that are the best ones to help them to develop whatever they want to develop. Thank you both for joining us in this webinar. Thank you for all the participants that are watching us. feel free to contact us if you have any questions, even if you want to, I don't know, a link with Miguel and with Andre. I know they're always available to meet with people and to help you in any way. I don't know if Andre and Miguel, you want to say anything else before we go?
Well, just thank you for having us, and I think that was it. And thank you everyone that has been assisting and watching this. I hope this was useful. As just to reinforce what you said, like we are always reachable by email or by LinkedIn. So if there is any question or things that you want to understand a little bit better, just reach out to us.
Precisely. So it was a pleasure, and I hope that some of you, at least, if you are thinking, should I do it, should or not, why not go and try to do this incredible experience. And I'm talking about the whole MBA, not only about this part, of course. And I hope that we can meet each other sooner than later. So thank you for coming, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you once again. Thank you to Joe and Anna, who are not here anymore because they actually have an exam right after this. Thank you. Have a good evening and see you in the next webinar.